And I will count down from 15, and then we'll go from there. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Bengals are the defending AFC champions. And of course, the way to get back to the Super Bowl is they have to defend the crown, and they will do it from the number 2 position in the conference. Pardon me, is it number 2? I have
Three.
these get the math. Number 3. See, I was already crowning them with the number 2. But yeah, again, I am Earl Holland here with another Sports Refuge podcast live stream, and of course, my brain is a little fried because again, when you do these runs of recordings, the biggest thing is trying to get as many as possible and trying to get it all lined up. But I'm glad to be here talking about the Cincinnati Bengals with longtime Bengals fan Rich Wills. Rich, thank you for being part of the show, taking your time out of your busy schedule, and I am glad to have you here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, definitely. I appreciate it. As we get into the interview, I always ask, as usual, how long have you been a fan of the Bengals, and how did you become a Bengals fan?
I was right around the year 2000. Watching Corey Dillon break the NFL rushing record at the time, I think really got me kind of interested. And I'd kind of always been interested in football, just more of watching it just to watch it. Didn't really have a team. And then I grew up in Dayton, so close enough, and they just happened to be the team. And then the Marvin Lewis era kicked in, and that kind of really got me interested. A lot more guys like Chad Johnson and Carson Palmer, and they actually started to look like a competent team instead of just the same old bungles after 20, 30 years. So it was finally started to take notice.
What was the most memorable moment as a Bengals fan? I assume it had to be getting in the Super Bowl and being close enough to winning it for most of the game.
Yeah, definitely making the Super Bowl, beating the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. I'd say I was too young to remember the last time they went to the Super Bowl in '89, so it was before my time. But yeah, beating the Chiefs when nobody gave us a chance, and then I didn't even really have my hopes up until just after halftime when we threw the, I'll say, questionable touchdown to T. Higgins, and then got an interception right after that. That's when I really started thinking that we could win the game. But they held on for as long as they could, and I think we get another split second on that last drive, and I think Joe Burrow can hit Jamar Chase, who's wide open running down the sidelines because Jalen Ramsey fell down. But that we get guys that can't block Aaron Donald, so it is what it is.
Expectations coming into the season, I know it seems like, especially in the NFL, the team that loses the Super Bowl has the hangover. But going into the season, what were you expecting? Coming up so close on winning a Super Bowl?
Definitely expectations were to go back to the playoffs again and win the division. Maybe, I guess, expectations not to win the division, but definitely go back to the playoffs. But it seems like all the good free agents came to the AFC last year, so it never was really comfortable actually making the playoffs for a really long time. But definitely kind of expected them to get there one way or another.
Was there a point in the season that you were confident that the Bengals are going back to the playoffs?
Unfortunately, they started out pretty slow, so it wasn't really until like week 13, week 14, they beat Kansas City at home for the third time in a row, and then they finally got the monkey off the back against Cleveland, and they beat them, and that's when I think they got to 9 or 10 wins, and like that, that was at that point it was pretty for sure they were going to go back to the playoffs.
What was the point that made you worry about the Bengals reaching the postseason again?
Starting 0-2 obviously doesn't help with the Super Bowl hangover talk. Um, it's just a bad kind of series of events. Joe Burrow gets an appendectomy like 3 weeks before the season starts, so he can't do any sort of off-season workouts or training camp or anything. And then we have a new offensive line coming in, which hopefully an upgrade from last year, but you don't know at the time. And then they just look terrible against Pittsburgh. Lost a close one to Dallas, and then at that point you're really starting to worry. And then they got a couple wins and a couple close wins and another close loss at Baltimore on Sunday night, and then I think they go to Cleveland on Monday night and just get absolutely obliterated. And so that was at that point it was a little iffy if they were going to make the playoffs because they had the supposed easy part of their schedule was in the front half, and then the back half of the schedule was the part where they needed to just kind of ride it out. So the thought was they wanted to get all their wins up front, and so then they could hopefully just kind of sneak in. They had to because they had a lot of tough matchups in the back half, but they managed to pull it out, thankfully.
Looking at the AFC playoffs and everything's already set, who do you feel that the Bengals match up the best with in the conference?
Right now, I think in the conference it's Baltimore. If Lamar Jackson plays, that's probably a different story. They've just been he is their engine, and he's the guy that he's their ultimate weapon. Without him, I think Huntley's banged up too, so they might be down to their third string quarterback, and that's tough for any team to overcome. So our offense is good enough to play with their defense, and so I just think our defense is good enough to completely shut them down. So it's probably still going to be a close game, something like 17-10 or something, but I think our defense can just shut them down, so our offense doesn't really have to carry the load if they can't. Because once again, Baltimore has a great defense right now, so it's going to be a tough game still. But without Lamar, I don't think it matches up a lot better.
Who's the team in the AFC that scares you? Is it, of course, Kansas City? Is it Buffalo? Is it Jacksonville? Because a team that nobody gave a chance has all of a sudden caught fire and won the South, regardless of how the quality of the AFC South is.
It's still got to be the Chiefs. I know they're the team to beat. I'm sure most people probably say Buffalo, but it's any given Sunday. I think any of the Bengals, the Bills, or the Chiefs can win. But I'm sure Kansas City wouldn't be too upset if we had to come back to their house in a couple weeks because we beat them 3 times last year, 3 times in a row, and I'm sure they have not forgotten that at all. So they're probably hoping to see the Bengals again. But yeah, and Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, those guys are incredible, and you can't count them out even if you somehow get a winning streak against them like we have. So it's definitely the team you don't want to see.
You look at it and you look back at that Super Bowl game. I had a question looking at it why the coach didn't decide to go with Joe Mixon on those running downs instead of going with Samaje Perine, because I was concerned that unless Mixon was hurt, that he didn't he didn't use him to get those short yard gains he needed. And then the other thing is, of course, everybody had a feeling that Matt Stafford was going to try to torch Eli Apple, and yeah, because the internet was not very kind to Eli Apple after that game.
Yeah, our offensive line was such a problem that Samaje Perine is by far the better pass blocker. So I think that's why he was in a lot of the short yard situation. He's a lot. If we wanted to do like a play action, he's the guy you'd want to have blocking for Burrow over Mixon. And then I think short yardage too. He's Perine's a more kind of downhill runner, and he's at least looks like a bigger guy. I don't know if he's actually bigger than Joe Mixon, but he looks like he plays a lot bigger, and so he runs downhill, and especially against that D line they have, you want a guy to be able to get ahead of steam and just kind of crash into the line to pick up a short yardage situation. I think for Apple, yeah, that's that although it was like 6 or 7 passes in a row at the end of the game to Cup, and that was tough to watch. But our D coordinator is usually pretty good about making those adjustments and kind of hiding weaknesses if they're out there. But yeah, the Rams figured out a way to put him on an island against Cup, and I don't know that there's anybody in the league that can cover Cooper Kupp when he's healthy. So it's definitely, I'm sure they have gone back and watched that lots of times. I know I haven't gone back and watched it. Probably never will, but it's definitely burned in my memory and probably will be for a long time.
And the other thing is with Joe Burrow, you see him. When's the last time you've seen a Bengals quarterback with that much confidence? Especially the one photo that shows him with the cigar and everything in the locker room. I can't say, in my memory of watching it, going back from the the tail end of the Boomer run to the Jeff Blake days to everybody else in between, and Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton and all those guys. I've never seen a Bengals quarterback with that much confidence.
Yeah, Boomer was a little more before my time, and watching the Shake and Blake teams and Kelly Smith and all those guys, I don't know that they won enough games to have any sort of confidence. So I mean, Carson Palmer was good, but he's a California USC guy, so it's a little different than the hometown kid in Burrow. So it's it's amazing what a culture change that just someone like Joe Burrow brings, and Zach Taylor. All those guys have just completely shifted the culture, even from the Marvin Lewis era, where you had guys like Perfect and Pac-Man, unfortunately great players, but sometimes not always the guys that worked out the best on the field. And Zach Taylor has just turned all that around, and it's been amazing to watch. And now I think the whole organization believes that they're the team to beat right now in the AFC, and until I guess someone proves them otherwise, then they're still right. And it's a joy to watch.
Going to the Super Bowl prediction, who do you have coming out of the AFC? Who do you have coming out of the NFC? Who wins the game, and what is the final score?
I'll start with the NFC. I think I mentioned it earlier that it seems like all the good free agents went to the AFC this year. So it seems like the NFC is pretty. There's like maybe I feel two teams that can go. It's either Philadelphia or Dallas. And I think with Jalen Hurts can get healthy, the Philadelphia they're going to be tough to beat for anybody else in the NFC playoffs. So I'll go with them in the NFC. The AFC, I'll pick Buffalo. I know, being a big Bengals fan, I don't care if they win, every single game, 100-0. I'd probably still never pick them to go to the Super Bowl. Buffalo, they're a great team, and if we had a home game against them in round 2, if we make that, and if we had been able to host them, I might feel a little better. But going to Buffalo, and then after everything that happened with Damar Hamlin, and it's just, I feel like they have the emotional edge and the support and just the good story for this year. So I'll take them. That'd be a really good game. Both teams are really, really good on offense and pretty competent defenses. So I had to think a lot about this. It probably starts pretty slow and then picks up in the second half. So something close, 31-28. It's not that would be, I think, one of the better Super Bowls to watch, because two really good teams and two good quarterbacks. So it's something to look forward to.
And before we wrap this up, again, I appreciate all of your you taking the time out of your busy schedule to do it, Rich. what are ways people can reach out to you? And do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone?
Yeah, I'm just on Facebook, Rich Wills. I'm not really a big social media person, so I don't do Twitter or Instagram or anything. But my brother-in-law, I'll give a shout out to him. His Twitter and Instagram are at DJ Hunter Quinn. I think he was going to be your Packers person, but they unfortunately missed the playoffs. So him and my wife's whole family, I'm sure they were having a bit of a rough night Sunday night. So give a shout out to them, and hopefully they can make it back next year. So make everybody a little happier.
Again, Rich, I really appreciate it. For everybody who's been watching through all these live streams, we're doing a lot of these. We're trying to knock them all out. And coming up tomorrow, we have our own gamut of live streams as well. Starting at 7 p.m., I will talk Jacksonville Jaguars. And then at 8 o'clock, I will talk Buffalo Bills. And at 8:45, I will talk with Minnesota Vikings as well. Coming up Friday, I'll be talking Philadelphia Eagles and Baltimore Ravens and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still looking for that one Chargers fan, and trying to lock all that down, and then we will have all 14 teams involved in the playoffs, and then we should be good to go. But again, Rich, thank you so much. For my guest, Rich Wills, I am Earl Holland. I will see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. where we start talking about a little bit of Jacksonville Jaguars football, that is. And again, thank you guys for watching. Have a good night, and we'll be back at it tomorrow.